The autumn leaves crunched beneath Daniel Hayes' polished shoes as he walked through Riverside Park, his 2-year-old daughter Sophie balanced on his hip. At 33, Daniel had built a reputation as a brilliant but distant CEO, pouring himself into work after losing his wife Claire to cancer 18 months ago. Sophie was his only light, with her bright pigtails and infectious giggle. "Daddy, look," Sophie squealed, pointing at the golden leaves swirling in the breeze. Daniel managed a small smile, the kind that didn't quite reach his eyes anymore. They walked this path every Saturday afternoon, his one concession to a life outside boardrooms and quarterly reports. It was their ritual, their sacred time. Then Sophie did something unexpected. She twisted in his arms, reaching toward a woman sitting alone on a park bench. The woman was younger, maybe 28, with shoulder-length brown hair and kind eyes that held a distant sadness. Her clothes were clean but worn, and beside her sat a small backpack that looked like it contained everything she owned. "Hi," Sophie called out, her small voice full of innocent warmth. The woman looked up, startled. When she saw Sophie, her expression softened into something beautiful and broken at once. She waved back tentatively. Daniel tried to keep walking, but Sophie squirmed insistently. "Talk to lady, Daddy." Something in his daughter's certainty made him stop. Daniel approached the bench, feeling awkward, out of place in his expensive suit among the falling leaves, and this stranger's quiet struggle. "I'm sorry," Daniel said. "My daughter seems to have taken a liking to you." The woman smiled, but tears suddenly filled her eyes. She stood up quickly, as if to leave, then froze. Her hand went to her mouth. "Mr. Hayes," she whispered. Daniel's brow furrowed. "Do I know you?" "I'm Rachel," she said quietly. "Rachel Morrison. I was your wife's nurse during her last 3 months at St. Mary's Hospital." The world tilted. Daniel remembered those months in fragments, a blur of hope and heartbreak. He remembered nurses coming and going, but one face suddenly crystallized in his memory. The young woman who held Claire's hand during the worst nights, who sang softly when the pain was unbearable, who cried with him the day Claire said goodbye. "Rachel," he breathed, "I remember you. You were there when she asked me to promise to take care of Sophie." Rachel nodded, tears spilling freely now. "She made me promise something, too. She asked me to check on you both someday, to make sure Sophie was growing up happy. But I lost my job 6 months ago, and then my apartment, and I just could not find you until today. And here you are." Daniel stared at this woman who had been an angel in his darkest hours, now clearly struggling herself. Sophie, sensing something important happening, reached out to Rachel with both arms. Rachel hesitated, then took the little girl, holding her like something precious and fragile. "You knew my mommy," Sophie said with the matter-of-fact wisdom of toddlers. "I did," Rachel whispered. "She loved you so much. She talked about you every single day." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "What happened to you, Rachel? Why are you here alone?" Rachel set Sophie down gently, letting her play in the leaves nearby. She sat back on the bench, and Daniel joined her. The story emerged slowly, painfully. After Claire died, Rachel had poured everything into her work, taking double shift to avoid going home to an empty apartment. She'd been saving to go back to school for her nurse practitioner license. Then the hospital downsized. She lost her job, then her apartment. Her family had disowned her years ago. She had no one. "I've been staying at the women's shelter on 5th Street," Rachel said quietly. "But they have a 30-day limit. My time runs out next week. I've been applying everywhere, but no one wants to hire a nurse who's been living in a shelter." Daniel watched Sophie play in the leaves, so alive and joyful. He thought about Claire, about the promise he'd made to live fully, to honor her memory by being present for their daughter. He thought about how Rachel had honored Claire with such tenderness when she needed it most. Come work for me, Daniel said suddenly. Rachel looked at him, confused. I don't understand. Sophie needs a nanny. Someone who understands loss but still knows how to find joy. Someone who will teach her kindness and compassion. I've been going through agencies, but no one feels right. You feel right. Claire trusted you. I trust you. Mr. Hayes, I can't accept charity. It's not charity, Daniel said firmly. I'm offering you a job. Full-time with benefits and housing. There's a guest house on my property. It's been empty since Claire died. You'd have your own space, your privacy, and time to figure out your next steps. But Sophie needs you. And maybe I do too. Rachel's hands trembled. Why would you do this? Daniel looked at Sophie, then back at Rachel. Because 18 months ago, you held my wife's hand when I couldn't bear to let go. You gave her dignity and comfort in her final days. You gave me permission to fall apart. That's not something you forget. Rachel covered her face with her hands and wept. Sophie toddled over, concerned, and patted Rachel's knee. Don't be sad, lady. Daddy makes everything better. 2 weeks later, Rachel moved into the guest house. The first morning, she prepared breakfast and brought Sophie outside to play in the autumn leaves. Daniel watched from his study window, seeing his daughter laugh in a way she hadn't since Claire died. Something in his own chest loosened. Over the months that followed, Rachel became part of their small family. She wasn't trying to replace Claire. She was honoring her memory by loving Sophie the way Claire would have wanted. She taught Sophie to bake cookies, leaving flour footprints across the kitchen. She read stories with different voices that made Sophie shriek with laughter. She kept photos of Claire everywhere, making sure Sophie knew her mother's face, her story, her love. But Rachel also did something unexpected. She helped Daniel grieve. On hard days, when the weight of loss felt crushing, Rachel would sit with him and say, Claire told me you needed permission to be sad sometimes. So here it is. Be sad today. Sophie and I will hold the fort. And on good days, when Daniel found himself laughing at Sophie's antics, Rachel would smile and say, Claire wanted this. She wanted you to find joy again. 6 months after Rachel arrived, Daniel found her in the garden planting spring flowers with Sophie. The golden afternoon light caught in Rachel's hair, and Sophie was chattering about butterflies. Daniel realized he was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in 2 years. That evening, after Sophie was asleep, Daniel found Rachel on the guest house porch. He handed her an envelope. What's this? She asked. Acceptance letter. To the nurse practitioner program at City University. I pulled some strings. Your classes start in the fall. I'll adjust your hours so you can attend. Rachel stared at the letter, tears streaming. Daniel, why do you keep giving me chances? Daniel sat beside her, looking up at the stars. Because Claire believed in second chances. She believed people deserve to be seen, to be valued, to be helped when they're down. You showed her that kindness when she needed it most. I'm just paying it forward. Rachel shook her head. It's more than that. You've given me a family. You've given me hope. You've given me a reason to believe life can be good again.